Hi, this is Abul Hussain coming to you direct from London, the United Kingdom, and welcome to another episode of the SMMA Mastermind podcast, where we talk about how you can start or scale your digital marketing agency. And we also bring on subject matter experts to upskill us to help us deliver better results for our clients. Now, if you are watching this episode outside of our Facebook group, make sure to find the link above or below this video. Or go to smmamastermind.com, especially if you're in the agency community and you want to grow your agency and you want to join a helpful, a useful community of 2,500 like-minded individuals. Now, with that out of the way, I have a very special guest joining me all the way from Buffalo, New York. His name is CJ Maurer, and he is the founder of The Gist, an inbound digital marketing agency. He's been on his journey for the last 16 months, and we are going to talk about, well, anything and everything to do with inbound marketing, as well as his journey. CJ, welcome to the show.
Abul, thank you so much. I just want to first let you know that I'm really excited to be here and I really admire what you're doing. Since I started my agency, I've really grown to value the network and community and just the general collaboration and sharing that exists among other agency owners and agency employees. You know, when I first started my agency, I didn't really think I would gravitate to such a strong network of my industry peers because I thought, I would spend my time trying to meet clients, not, not competitors and other industry peers. But between reading books and listening to podcasts and message boards, I've just found it so valuable. And it's really for people like people like you are to thank for all of us having
You're
this
too
great
kind.
network. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Now, for the people who might not know who you are, how about a little bit of an introduction? How did you get into the digital marketing space?
That's a good question. I was drawn into marketing first through like advertising and PR. I went to I'm actually one of those few people that went to college.
Right.
And I'm doing not that I went to college, that I'm doing what I actually studied in college. Most people in marketing, there's not a lot of people. I at least it doesn't feel like I hear it, right? I don't feel
You're
like I
right.
hear it. That I hear people who go to school for marketing and then have careers in marketing. They find their way into a marketing career in a roundabout way. But I nonetheless, during my last 2 years in college, I went to St. Bonaventure University, which is in Western New York, western part of New York State. We're very proud of our basketball team as well. Anyways, and yeah, I became really, really interested in how to influence people and branding and how messages were able to kind of cut through the clutter, how trends were to happen. So it's kind of like a mix of marketing and sociology. The combination of those two
Sure.
things really interest me. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll go work for an advertising agency someday. I'll come up with ideas. And long story short, I got in sales. And then I sold advertising. Then I was an account executive for an advertising agency. Then I was an account executive / like creative strategist for a branding agency. Then I went to go work for one of my clients, which was a payroll and HR company. And that's really what thrust me to where I am now, because finally I moved on the client side and I was able to go much deeper into a business's actual marketing needs. And I knew right away that we needed to produce content, that we needed to show up on search engines, that we needed to do more than just advertise, right? But we needed to invest in our own assets and platforms, the ones that we own or control, like our website, like our email list, like our social media pages, and really engage with current and potential customers that way. And so that's really where I got into inbound marketing, which is what my agency focuses on now. So after working in that role for 4 years, I started The Gist in December of 2019.
Right. Okay. And just before this global pandemic, I suppose.
Yeah, like 3 months before. I would not recommend starting a business 3 months before a global pandemic. So if you're planning on starting a business, I would try to avoid that.
Right. Now, a lot of people, obviously, when they initially jump from being employed to being self-employed, it's a big jump for a lot of people, which is why a lot of freelancers stay stuck, or media buyers they stay stuck within their I suppose their day jobs. When you made, I suppose, the jump, Did you have clients from the get-go, or did you have to go out and prospect for your clients?
It was a little. It was a little bit of both. So what's actually funny is that my employer was one of my clients from the last
Hmm.
agency I was at. Right. So I first started working with them as their agency. Then I became their employee. And so I just pitched them on becoming my client again instead of my employer, and it worked because I'm still working with them. In the months leading up to that, I had written a business plan and performed a couple of small jobs for a couple of other clients, and really had some feelers out there. And I had been networking in my area for so long leading up to that point that I really felt like there was market potential for me to do it. So although I did have a little bit when I was leaving, I had to save some money, and I really had to bank on my ability to go out and get new clients.
Right.
So.
Okay. So you're obviously focused on the B2B side of things. Did you, or do you have any B2C clients, or are you kind of purely working with businesses that are selling to other businesses?
So I do have some B2C clients. Most of my clients though are B2B, and I'm planning on even like narrowing that focus a little more. So you may interview a lot of people in my position, right, who are a couple years ahead of me, where they may have told you stories about how in the beginning they said yes to everything
Yeah.
and they were generalist,
Yeah.
and and now we've really niched down, whether it be around a particular industry, a horizontal or a vertical, or any type of attribute. And we're in that weird space in between where we feel like we have identified what that niche is, and we're moving toward it. But we are not 100% there. But what I will say is that my B2C some of my B2C clients have actually been really great, and a couple of them, actually one of them is friends of mine, so that always helps. But the other two that I've worked with have very similar attributes to a B2C company, in the sense that their products and services have long product purchase cycles, and their buyers generally do a lot of research about
Right.
them before making decisions, right? So it's not like a restaurant or a stick of deodorant or
Mm.
something else like that, where people aren't going to do a ton of research about that or read an ebook or a blog post about that, right,
Right.
before buying. So even though they technically were business to consumer, the attributes of their business from a marketing standpoint were much more consistent with a typical B2B company, which is why I believe we were able to, and still are in some cases, able to do some good work for them. So and in particular, two of them also are very focused on asserting their thought leadership, and that's a big reason
Hmm.
why people choose to hire us, is people who want to really become thought leaders, or go-to resources in their particular industry.
Right.
Um, we help people generate leads and nurture leads, and we support the sales team in a variety of ways.
Hmm.
But one of the things that we're keen on is really helping companies build their own content ecosystem
Sure.
that allows them to properly engage customers at all stages of the buyer's journey, and really help them become a little bit more iconic in their
Right.
industry.
So I suppose the next follow-up question that comes to mind is, how does one become a thought leader? Because a lot of people in their industries, they think they're a thought leader, or they want to be positioned as a thought leader. So they'll speak at conferences, these days, probably on Zoom panels or whatever. But when you're working with a client, how do you turn them into a thought leader?
By doing what you're doing, Abdul, honestly. So I was giving a presentation to a chamber of commerce a couple of years ago, and it was a presentation about branding. And at the end, I got a question from a financial advisor. And he raised his hand and he said, his name was Joe, and he said, CJ, I'm a financial advisor, and every networking event I go to, there's usually at least 3 or 4 other financial advisors. In fact, financial advisors are everywhere, and we all, do most of the same things and sell most of the same products. So, like, how do I differentiate myself, right? And my answer was kind of flippant, but I did explain it, and I said, well, the best way to differentiate yourself is to be different. And so when I hear you say, well, what is the best way to become a thought leader? It is to lead.
Right.
Lead thoughts or share content or be a resource or just show up and be helpful. So, the best way to do it is to just go put yourself out there. It may be uncomfortable at first, right? It may feel like whether you start blogging or starting an email newsletter or, starting a podcast or running a webinar or really any number of things that you can do, you're never going to be as good as you will eventually be on that first or second time. And it may feel new and it may feel uncomfortable, but if you are somebody who knows what a target audience needs or
True.
wants and how they're motivated,
Hmm.
then you are qualified to be a thought leader in some way. And it is okay if you're not the only one, because most industries there are multiple, right? If I just look at B2B marketing, B2B business owners or B2B marketing leaders,
Right.
specifically those that are in B2B service industries, right, that have long product purchase cycles and maybe are very particularly interested in HubSpot, right? I want to be a thought leader in that space. I will be, if I'm lucky, one of many, and that's okay, right? Because that target audience is large enough for there to be a lot of people.
Carve your own niche out.
Yes, exactly. And so it really just involves initiative.
Yep.
There's a lot of people who come, because I run my own podcast too, and there's people who come to me and ask for my expert. I've heard somebody in a sentence literally this week was asking about best practice and used the word expertise in relation to my ability to understand how people should create podcasts. And I've only been doing a podcast for 11 months. But you can see, because I do that, because I blog, not just for my clients, but for my own agency. I do a podcast, I blog, I do email marketing. I'm visible on social. Not even as visible as a lot of other people, but because I'm trying and I'm putting myself out there and I'm anticipating what people need or want or care about, and I'm satisfying that, and I'm making deposits in these relationships through my content. I'm significantly better off than where I was when I started just 16 months ago.
No, you're
So
absolutely right. I have had the same thing. People have approached me and they want to start their own podcast and they wanted to know how to do it, how to get guests and all of that, the whole mechanism. So I can totally relate to that. Once you start putting yourself out there, whether you think yourself to be a leader or not, people start perceiving you as a leader because you've put yourself out there, right?
it's unbelievable, yes. But it truly is a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, meaning that if you were there too much, I mean, there's always a benefit, right? Like most people are not putting themselves out there solely for, in the goodness of their own hearts,
No, of
right?
course.
They realize that there are benefits
Yeah.
to being visible, personal benefits to them and their businesses. That being said, what is the one thing that all leaders have in common? Followers.
Yes.
You're not a leader unless you have followers, like real legitimate followers, right?
Yeah.
And not followers that you buy on Twitter or something like that, but I mean legitimate people who follow you, right?
1,000 true fans or whatever you want to call them.
Right. And the only way you're actually going to get those people is to help. So there's a lot of pseudo thought leadership, and there's a lot of people who kind of want people to respect them because of maybe material possessions or a catchy quote or two.
Right.
But it's really a blue collar exercise, I think, in the sense that if you're digging a mine, you have to swing that tool over and over and over, and you're going to get tired, and it doesn't matter because you got to go swing that hammer, thrust that shovel, whatever it is, And so thought leadership is similar in the sense that in most cases, there's never going to be like one post or one video or one piece of content that is going to go viral and everybody's going to figure you out, right?
Yep.
And everybody's just going to discover you in this incredible way. What it usually is just very small, micro deposits into that bank account of trust and confidence that you
I
make
love
over
that.
time.
I love that analogy, the small micro deposits into the bank of trust. I need to use that line. Um,
Well, I don't remember where I heard it. Like, I probably didn't think of it. Most of the things that I say, I've ripped off from other people. But
yeah,
I always talk about relationships are like bank accounts, right? You have to make deposits before you try and take withdrawals. That's
that's
just the way
another
it
great
goes.
line.
How
Relationships.
what, no, how many friendships have you ever started where you say, "Hey, hi, nice to meet you.
Mhm.
Can I have $5?" You know what I mean? Like you
True.
just would never do that.
No.
Maybe I'd have to know you for a couple days or something.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Now, obviously, B2B marketing, as you mentioned, has a longer sales cycle, and I suppose to get inbound leads, you need to push content out there. How do you help your clients or even for yourself find the right content ideas?
Yeah, so well, we always tie it back to what they're trying to sell, to be honest.
Hmm.
So we start there, right? So we have a spreadsheet like with all of their solutions, and we say, okay, put in all your solutions here. And then what we do is we analyze what like different attributes about those solutions. Like from a sales perspective, are they high touch, low touch, or no touch?
Hmm.
Is it a physical product? Is it a service? Is it a software product? Is it an entry level thing or more of like a higher up buy? Is it just like a single purchase or is it a subscription? So we analyze some other factors about it just so we can better understand what that product is and match it to which of their buyer personas are most likely to purchase it and why. And then from there, we do some keyword research to figure out what things people might be searching for
Hmm.
on the internet when they might be interested in that service. So you take like, so you have like, okay, what is the service? What are they trying to sell? What are people searching for? And then reconcile those two things with, well, what is inherently interesting? And that's where like, our background as essentially as journalists kind of comes into play too, right? Where
Sure.
there's the sales aspect, there's the SEO aspect, and then there's like the journalistic humanist interest aspect where you kind of have to reconcile these things, and then we use like I said, we use keyword research.
Hmm.
We do on-site optimization. We do topic cluster planning. We consider content at different stages of the buyer's journey: awareness stage, consideration stage, decision stage content. So we do build rather comprehensive content marketing plans. But at the end of the day, the why I named my business the gist, right? The essence of it all is it's all about do people get you, like you? Do you
Sure.
interest them? Are you relevant? So the quality of the content consistently over time, right, is how people win.
Right.
Is what can overcome any lack of advertising budget
True.
or how sophisticated the design of your website or landing page is. If you can just show up with good consistent content, you're going to win,
Hmm.
right? Content that actually helps, that anticipates and satisfies needs. So
Right.
that is the gist of
Right.
content marketing, which is why I named my
Course.
business
And
that.
obviously, content marketing, it's playing the long game. So when you are working with clients, right, how do you kind of set the right expectations and measure KPIs? Because it's not a case of you launch something today, like an advertising campaign, and you have leads tomorrow. How do you kind of ensure that you and your clients are always on the same page?
Yeah, so we start with SMART goals, and we're very realistic about how quickly we think things will work or not. I mean, to be honest, if you do everything right, you should start to see some modest gains in a couple of months. And after 1 year, usually, we're looking at 20 to 30%, if not higher, increases in at least organic traffic, if not website traffic overall. So that doesn't necessarily mean a 20 to 30% increase in top line revenue, right? But these are some of the leading indicators that you see. And if we're doing the other things right, then we are going to be producing those results, and clients are going to appreciate that. But in terms of managing their expectations, it's just that it's managing their expectations. We're not we're not a lead gen shop. We're not a PPC agency or a social media agency. If you want that right away, then you can go hire somebody else, right? We are about helping clients create organic, scalable growth.
Right.
That is what we do. In fact, I have this term. This is actually something that I've come up with. The thing about paid advertising, right, is one of the issues with paid advertising is the explosion of media has more platforms in this world than ever before. More newspapers, magazines, blogs, TV channels, podcasts, Sirius XM stations, whatever, right? There's just more media platforms than ever before, which is advantageous to consumers because we can find the ones that are, more specialized to us, the ones that appeal to us more. 50 years ago in the US, there was ABC, NBC, CBS.
Right.
Those are your options. Now, just think about all the ways, right? So as a result, every platform is becoming increasingly fragmented and smaller.
Yeah.
Right? Smaller. I get some of the social platforms are still growing for now, but that's because they're in their infancy, right? We're in the age of CBS, ABC, and NBC. Pretty soon there's just going to be more and more competition, and that audience, those audiences are going to become fragmented as well. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you want to run paid advertising campaigns, you have to create content with a short shelf life.
Yep.
Right? To run on platforms you don't own or control, right? With shrinking audiences at ever increasing costs.
Yep.
So this is a law of diminishing returns. If this was socioeconomics, we would call this a poverty trap. So what my business seeks to do is wean businesses off their dependence on foreign oil.
Sure.
But in this case, foreign oil is just third-party platforms that somebody else controls, somebody else owns, and I want to help them create their own growth ecosystem by investing in and growing the assets that they own or control, like their website and their social media accounts and their CRM database and email list, right? Because these things will appreciate in value over time, and they can control them. So that's what I'm trying to do, and so the value in that is tremendously high. But obviously, it takes a little bit of time to build.
No, of course. So, naturally, my follow-up question to that is obviously you have a very good idea of how you can help your clients and the services that you can provide. When you meet new prospects, do you find that they are on a similar journey and they are aligned with what you can do for them? Or do you need to convince them in terms of they need to invest in the long game through content marketing?
Both, really.
Right.
Both. So we are fortunate. We are just fortunate right now. Just fortunate enough where, we're doing well, right? So our agency we're still very small, but we're not going to make or break on whether the next prospect or client says yes or no to us, right? So. In fact, that means we can be a little bit more selective. And it also means that I don't have to try so hard to convince people of the value. Either they see it or they don't. To be honest, we're still improving and constantly working on how we describe this, how we educate about this, how we pitch this, even how we deliver on it. This is constantly evolving. We have a whole list of ways that we're creating more efficiencies on how to do a better job at what I'm just describing you. But, people either see it or they don't. And if they don't, then that's okay. Then, we aren't the agency for them. And maybe what they want to do is just they want more Facebook leads this quarter.
Sure.
And in which case, I know a couple of great agencies they could talk to. There was a time where I was trying to do that too, just to get the business.
Right.
And then thankfully about 6 months of saying yes to everything, I realized that is just, I think it's kind of inevitable. I think every agency needs to go through that phase in the beginning,
Sure.
where they say yes to everything, because there's only really one way to really, really reassure you what you're the best at, what you want to do. Unless this is not your first go around in starting a business, then it's very understandable for agencies that want to be all things to all people from the beginning.
Yeah.
But from what I'm learning from everybody and now experiencing myself, the sooner you get away from that, the better.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. I think everyone goes through that journey, especially if they're starting from scratch. Now, we're very quickly running out of time, CJ. So for the people who might want to find out more about you, want to connect with you, get to know a little bit more about your services, where's the best place to find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, CJ Maurer, Maurer. If you I don't know if this is audio only or not. If it's not,
You're
my
on
profile
video
picture
as well.
looks like,
So.
okay, so my profile picture looks like this. And you can also go to our website, thegistcontent.com. There you can find our blog, you can find our podcast, our HubSpot video tutorial library, contact page. Drop me a message there. I'm also on Twitter at CJ Maurer. And yeah, I love connecting with other people just in general. That's kind of always been my MO. But over the past 6 months or so, I've especially appreciated connecting with other agency owners and just agency professionals. Not only to make sure, like, maybe create collaborative partnerships where I can refer people out for things I don't do, but just to kind of have some of these conversations. Some of the reasons why I'm able to speak semi-confidently about our evolution in our 16-month history has been due to a lot of this collaboration. So I definitely welcome it, and I thank you for again playing a role in that. It's really valuable to us all.
Thank you. And I thought we were going to talk about HubSpot, but we didn't even touch on that. So maybe we need to do another episode on that. But for the time being, CJ Maurer, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Abdul. I really appreciate your time.